welcome back. I'm Fiona Mboa here at Church of Uganda Family TV with Ring Diaries. We'll talk about anything and everything to do with marriage. And today the conversation we're having here with Pastor Sam is those that are about to give up on marriage.
Right.
And we're looking at the three strands. It's the three strands?
Yeah.
It's the strand of three. And the course that they're doing to help people even when you're about to give up. And I'm happy that there is a successful story.
Yes.
Because sometimes people think we're just talking about these things and they don't work.
Right.
But when we have a success story, then that's something to go by. And before we went for the break, Pastor Sam was telling us that even though there was someone cheated or someone, and you're all right actually, but what is the right thing to do?
Yes. Yes. What's the right thing to do out there, friends? You could be in the situation, you could be in the thick of things, but I want to encourage you that I think it's in the scriptures in Ecclesiastes 4:12. It says the strand of three is not easily broken. Where God is in the middle of all this, we can be able to forgive each other because it comes from a place of forgiveness. Even Jesus Christ on the cross, he was at a place of please forgive them. They don't know what they are doing. But it's not easy.
This is going to say it cannot be easy. Yes,
when you're in that furnace of fire going through it, because there'll be so much. And we can talk about an addicted spouse who is maybe, you feel, I think I've tried my best. A spouse maybe who sells everything that you have accumulated, and you're like, okay, now, enough is enough.
And you are justified.
You're justified.
It makes sense.
Yes. But how can you come to a place of walking this journey as maybe people who made a decision that we shall be together irrespective of whatever happens in our lifestyle? And I've had those people, I mean, my daughters, my spiritual daughters, who have come and said, but Pastor, he's a foolish man. I'm like, but yes, he's a foolish man, but that's what you chose.
He's your foolish man.
He's your head at the end of the day. And I think for me, what should help our people out there or friends who are in that space or that situation is accountability. If you get people who you're accountable to, who can do a journey with you, like for the strand of three, we always encourage at least 3 or 4 couples that are going through the same thing to meet and just do life together. It's quite interesting when each of them meet. They're like, it's you who started this, it's you who did this, it's you, it was you. And at the end of the day, we're like, okay, what did you learn from the reading? Because you read, and then every weekend we meet and just have a conversation. What was your takeout? So at the end of the day, it's just a remedy to see how can we reignite the thing that feels like it has been fragmented into or has been broken into pieces because you decided to take that route. I also decided to take this route. And there's so many things. It could be even a distance that now all of a sudden you live or work very far. You get tempted and feel like you've moved on, but yet you made a covenant with someone, and then in this covenant we're like, we need to uphold it. And that's why now we come in to just say, how can we walk this journey? The fact that the strand of three is not easily broken.
And before you talked about something about a hardened heart. I've seen couples where, of course, as you've said, they're all right.
Right.
If you listen to them separately,
yes,
they're actually all right.
Yeah.
They're all right and they're all sure this is done. There's no going back.
Right.
And you find some have hardened their hearts to the point that they even don't remember what the problem was.
Right.
How do you handle that hardened heart?
Yes. In Doha we have a mantra. We say, pray for me. I mean, work on me. God work on me, and as I pray for her. And it's a very good...
So God works on me.
Yes.
As I pray for him.
For him.
Usually it is God work on him.
I think it's that way, and that's something we have borrowed into the strand of three. That you know what, in your own strength, you can't change a person. The best you can do is pray for them, And as in the process of praying for them, you also need to trust God that God will transform them. And also you have to play your part as well. In by playing your part, I mean is be that good person by not throwing arrows and being so um, sarcastic about some things, throwing callous words, but being at a place of, you know what, God, this is the person you gave me to live with for the rest of my life, and irrespective of the things that are happening here. Because I want to believe, I always challenge my men that God will ask you one day that I gave you a wife, I gave you children, what did you do with them? And I want to believe the same thing to the woman. I gave you a husband and children, or what did you do? I gave you a home, what did you do with it? So there's a place of, if you have that at the back of your mind of accountability to your creator, then it's also something that is can check you in, and for as you can use as a yardstick to be a better person.
Okay. And there's something you say that okay, I'm just seeking clarity. So you get people who are all about to give up,
Right.
not get someone who is doing well to work with the people who want to give up.
Yeah.
Why?
Now those ones we refer them to Ndoa. Now the successful stories we have, they're our champions now. Like this couple, they're our champion. That they are going to take other people through the program because they have personally experienced this. They have gone through it. They have they were at a place, at a verge of giving up on this thing which they treasured so much, called marriage, and they were like, you know what, it's been real. Take your path, I also take my path. Let's see whether you take the family home, I take the business, or whatever it is. But then, as they thought through it, but by the way, we are chasing after all the things, and by the way, we're going to leave them here anyway. And we're taking nothing with us. And yes, we are human, we make mistakes. And I think that's now the reality that we bring with the strand of three and say, look, there's much more to life, because the things we're running after now, I think I had a sermon one time that the gold we're chasing after right now is what we shall be walking on in heaven. That in heaven, the roads are made of gold. And this is what we are running after
We're
right now.
killing ourselves to death.
Yes. So it's one of the things that I think we need to bring ourselves to reality. But yes, and I don't want to downplay the fact that there are people out there going maybe through abusive relationships. I once met a lady who had a red eye, and she was like, Pastor, do you want to know about this really? I was like, yeah, I definitely would love to know what happened. Like, I'm in a marriage where I'm abused, and I want to throw in a towel. And I was like, wow, can we have a chance to talk? She's like, no, I'm on a break out of this as I just think through. And there are situations like that where somebody's abused physically, and those I think now where the issues, the jigs of the matter is, how can you come out of such a place by forgiving the other person? And this doesn't apply to only men beating the women, but also there are some
I've seen women beat men.
Women beat men, sure. And yes, and in some cultures it really happens, and it's a reality. People see it happening. But how can you help such a person come out of that situation? It still goes back to the drawing board and say, look, how can we? But now it calls that's now where the accountability comes in. If it's, take for instance, it's a church setting, and it's happening, and this gentleman or this lady can still be submissive to the authority, that there are people under authority, and say, look, our pastor or our priest or the father is coming to sit into our issues, and we address them, then that is something. But if you are doing life, and you're doing life on freelance, as in you as a couple, you've separated yourselves away from the community or people around you, then that's where now the problem comes. Even animals that are hunters, they go for the isolated um, animals to as prey. So the enemy will come for you as prey because you've
You
isolated yourself. So, and I think that's why a father's union was so good in the past, and mother's union, that they reached out to each other. How are you doing it in your marriage? What's the going? And that built marriages and relationships. So our generation today, we found
We are
ourselves
lo- we
because
are
of the
lon-
rat race.
We want to be on our own.
We are at a place of work. We're at a place of taking our children to the best schools. So we need to get all the money that we need to do all the things. So we have somehow isolated ourselves, and because we need to go to a fallback place, and that's where now the situation comes of, if you are isolated, it's very hard. But when you have a group of people around you, it makes it a little bit easier. Yes.
But Pastor Sam, someone will say, maybe me, I'm willing to try,
Mm.
but my spouse is not.
Mm.
Like, for example, I want to do that, but I cannot do it alone.
Right.
So what do you do for such couples? Well, one of the people is, maybe she's going to Mother's Union. She has been to Mother's Union for the last 25 years, and no one has ever seen the husband anywhere. What do you
Right.
do for such couples of, I've reached the brim,
Mm.
but my partner has failed to meet me halfway? What do you do in case someone comes to you and says, I want to do a strand of 3, but actually I'm a 1, so it can't be 3.
No, we don't encourage it to do as an individual. We really push for a couple, because it takes 2 to tango, and it takes 2 people to go to that place of, we want to take separate ways. It's not just an individual. So what we have done is we do the home visits, and God has graced us with a way of getting around it, to just talk to the couples and say, look, like the gentleman, the couple, we succeeded. He's a lawyer. He feels he knows it all, and the wife is like, I'm dying. I'm out of the thing, and I'm out. And we had to reach out to him and say, look. He's like, have you spoken to her? Is she willing to do that? If she is, then I'm able to come. At times, it's a place of invitation. Yeah, because also what you have to realize, Fiona, is that there is also what we call personality in these relationships, and I think psychologists have grouped them into 4, basically 2: introverts and extroverts. Yeah, for instance, there is extroverts. We have cholerics and sanguines. Yes, and then the flags and melancholics as introverts. And so you realize that if I'm led by, if my wife is a choleric, she's an extrovert, and I'm an introvert, and she's inviting me to those spaces, I'm like, there she comes again. She's leading me, and she wants to. She's the authoritarian. She wants to take charge of this relationship. I'm not going to go. So at times it takes a place of reaching out, an invitation, and many times you realize the person was just waiting for that one call to just step forward. So over time, even as we work with couples, I've realized that it takes talking. It takes talking. So we don't encourage a couple. One person to come as a couple. We always ask both of you to come. Yes, so we wouldn't take one person.
So even counseling, would you encourage, because I'm going through something in my marriage I'm about to give up, would you encourage me as an individual to go alone and find a counselor and just talk?
Yes, I would encourage that, especially if you're not venting. There's what we call a lightning rod. A lightning rod is really a person who just listens to you, and you utter everything that you have on your heart to just offset, like an outlet. And many people, especially men, don't have that.
They don't.
So if a
Why
counselor,
don't you have
yeah, I always challenge my men out there that they need 4 men in their lives, and that comes from a story in Mark chapter 2. Mark chapter 2, from verse 1 to 4, when they take the paralytic man to Jesus, and then these 4 men could have taken him back home.
Yes.
They're like, who doesn't see that Jesus is?
The crowd is
The
too
crowd is
big.
too big. But they took a bullet for him. They climbed up on the building.
Removed the
They
roof.
they even didn't care if the landlord is there. They made a hole. I think that we shall sort the landlord later.
Let's first
But they
sort
made a
this.
hole,
Yeah.
and then I think one of them had a geography to go down and tell the friends that I think come this side, and they lower the guy down exactly where Jesus was, and Jesus healed the man. So the moral of the story is that every man needs those four friends. Yes, and those four friends,
Interesting.
I think it applies to the women as well. But one of those
Women
men.
have like 20 friends,
Okay.
not just 4.
Yes, so one of the men is a mentor. Every man needs a mentor. Yeah, many men, we are to the. I got to know my purpose after 35 years because I was not at that place of having a mentor walk with me. And a mentor, you enter their space, they don't call you out. So every man needs a mentor.
You have to look for them.
Yes, I want to believe those 4 men that carried that man, one of them was a mentor. I was like, this man, I know he's going to be a better man. He has been sharing with me some stuff. Then we need a mentee. As a man, the mentor sharpens you from the top. The mentee sharpens you from the bottom. There are some things you won't do because you know that I have some people looking up to me. Like I personally have 2 sons and 2 daughters. But my sons are really my mentees. I can't do some things that they will just be looking at and you say, how can daddy do
How
this?
can daddy do that?
Yes, so, and then of course the lightning rod that I've just explained, every man needs an outlet. Just go and say, look, I'm struggling maybe with pornography, I woke up on a wrong bed, and that man just listens and like, man, I know you're going to be better. Yes, and then of course the rebuker is the 4th man, a man who tells you, I've been seeing you with the other woman, this woman, what's happening? You're married, you know. So we need rebukers. A person will tell you, I've seen you start your business, but you're not faithful, you're doing that, A person who tells you as it is. So every man needs those 4.
So every man needs a mentor, a mentee,
a lightning rod.
And a rebuker.
Yes, the lightning rod is just like it picks lightning from the sky and takes it down as it is on the top of the building. Just takes that lightning out of you that, you know what, it's well.
But
in a man's world.
Men like talking about some of these things. Because honestly, for all the couples that I've seen that are about to give up, they tell you, I will go and tell him whatever. He will be quiet. He will not say anything back. So why, since you've been with men and you're dealing with men, why don't men feel the need to speak?
Yes, I've told you about the personalities. It could be that he's now like me, I'm an introvert and I'm leading an extrovert. My wife is an extrovert. And our default is to go back and just be silent and say, you know what, I'll not have this fight. But that said, it doesn't negate the fact that we ought to be leaders and talk and come out from our corners. And many men, by the way, it's one of the things that men with friendship, we can be friends with another man for 10 years and I only know him as boss.
Exactly.
I know him as chief.
Name. Really?
I know him as my Arsenal fan or Manu guy that we talk about, and the surface is that level. While for the ladies, they will get to know the details.
1 minute and I'll know your mother, your grandmother,
yes,
your
yes.
children's names.
So it's one of the things that men we struggle with, and we just have to be intentional. Personally, because of, even as an introvert, I've had to come out of that space because leadership pulls you out of that place. As a counselor, as a father, a very intentional father, at that, I can't find myself in that space. I had to learn a way of just getting out of that space and being a better father. So the men out there, if you're in that space, I would encourage you to just find a band of brothers to do life with. And we encourage that at Man of Honor, which is also our 10 weeks program. These men who we cluster them, those who do the program, and we encourage them to do life together. And we pair them up, especially those that we feel this one needs to, not necessarily each,
but those who really need the help
they need it,
to get out.
we pair them with another man which we call a comrade in arms, CIA, that does life with you. He asks you questions. and we push them to the extent that you need to go to his village. If he's from Arua,
Oh God.
you'll
What
have
are
to go to
success
Arua.
stories there?
Yes. Oh, there it has been successful.
Oh,
It has been successful. We are doing now cohort 10. Right now it's
Wow.
happening, and it has been successful. Men go a little deeper. We push them to have a vision, to have a mission, values, and other things. So the men get out of those spaces and talk. So it would be good that you find men of the same values that you have, or better values.
Or better, actually, better values.
Better values, so that you they better you as a man. And yes.
Wow, interesting. So I think as we come to an end of this, from what I've learned is, one, there is hope.
Yeah, there is hope, absolutely. And Jesus is the hope. The Holy Spirit is the hope, is the one who guides us in the thing. Because we strongly believe in Ecclesiastes 4:12 that indeed God is the third strand in any relationship. Because God is created us for relationships. And it's amazing that He's the one who ordained this marriage thing right from Genesis, as we read it, Genesis 2. God created marriage, so it's very very important that if we bring Him, who is the architect of marriage, in the center,
Into this thing,
then there is nothing that is impossible. Because there is nothing that is impossible. Even that which you feel is, he did this to me, she did this to me, it's workable. Because you're at a place of grace and at a place of forgiving. Because I think for me, Fiona, one thing that I got to realize in life and over time, I think, for your information, I've lived for half a decade. I mean, for half a century, rather, sorry.
Okay. Congratulations. Wow.
Yes, so it brings me to the place of understanding that forgiveness is very key, because the Bible says that if you bring something to the altar and you remember that you've not forgiven somebody, please go back. And also the scripture says, if you don't forgive, God will not forgive you. And it humbles me that, imagine if I don't forgive someone, then however much I'm trying my best,
You're just wasting.
it's a waste of time, because God will not forgive me as well. So I think for me, it's just a place of saying, look, put God at the center of this and let us walk backwards. There's some things that we don't have to fight ourselves. For instance, that couple that she had a red eye, when she took off time and prayed, and then the gentleman sobered up. I think he realized, I've been taking this person for granted. Yeah, and he realized her importance. And by the time she was coming back, there were some lines drawn. Yeah, but it takes a place of prayer. And also she forgave him. She forgave him, even when she was healed from the red eye that had happened. So it takes the grace of God for you even to be at that place. But if you look at the life of Christ, who was beaten and smitten and name it, and he says, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing, I think it's a good place to just understand that there's hope even in that hard time. Because I want to believe that God never wastes experiences. Because at the end of the day, when there's light at the tunnel, you'll also tell some young girls or some young men who will come and say, I'm in this abusive relationship, and you're like, I have been there. And that's where now the authenticity of your story comes in to help somebody else. Yeah, but our moms were very interesting in their generations. I don't know how they did it. Even when they had abusive husbands or abusive wives, they kept it.
You would never get to know.
I don't know how they did it, but this generation we have we can't stand it anyway. Yeah, but times have changed. Just like when we're growing up, when mommy had visitors, and a mom's African eye meant, please, I have visitors. But in this generation, our children will ask us, Mommy, why? Daddy, why? So it's one of those things that times have
Times
changed.
have changed.
Yeah,
surely.
but we need to bring God at the center, because he's the same God yesterday, today, and forever. So if we put him at the center of this relationship, with this beautiful institution called marriage, then we shall be able to overcome.
To make it work.
Yes,
Wow.
make
Thank
it
you
work.
very much, Pastor Sam,
It's
for
a
your
pleasure.
time. And I'm sure that viewers have learned a thing or two. I've learned many. And I've also learned from my husband and my sons that they need 4 people in their lives. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. As you've heard, let us, one day is hope. Please don't give up. Even when you feel you are really, really tired of this person, don't give up. There's still chance. Remember, where was the spark? Where did you start off? To make sure that you decided this person will be with you till death, there must have been something that attracted you. Go back to that place. Let's walk backwards and do this again. And with God at the center, we can surely make these marriages work. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Fiona Mboa, here at Church of Uganda Family TV with Ring Diary.